iPads as a literacy teaching tool in early childhood by
Madison,
Cassie Stegman, Sydney Zellen,
and Morgan Smith.
The rationale for choosing this article was the integration of technology within literacy is important with students' learning. iPads can create an interactive environment and allow children to draw their ABCs, create stories, or help facilitate emergent literacy. A lot of learning is revolved around technology, and choosing this article is relevant to us as future teachers since most of our work will now be done with the use of technology. As the author of our article stated, considering the increased influence of digital technologies on daily life and young children's increased use of interactive technologies, early childhood educators are beginning to think about the role of technology in their classrooms. This study provides some context for how children might use technology to make their own ideas about literacy in early childhood, and how iPads can be used as an instructional tool to help support children's emerging understandings of literacy. Since many children begin using technology, such as iPads and tablets, for entertainment and leisure before they enter school, they might be introduced to literature digitally before they are in print. So teachers need to learn how to continue to instruct literacy to children, including skills that they might have already developed from digital print.
The study was conducted over a 7-week period using 2 preschool classrooms. One classroom was considered the yellow class, and the other class was considered the blue class. One of the classes would meet in the morning for 2.5 hours, and the other one would meet in the afternoon for 2.5 hours, each taught in the same classroom setting. There were 2 separate teachers for each classroom, 1 teacher and 1 teaching assistant. The teachers of each class were given 6 iPads to use as instructional tools. The teachers of each class were not familiar with the iPads prior to the study, or any tablets like them, so the apps on them were new to both the teachers and the students. There was a large variety of apps that could be used to meet the teachers' learning goals for development and learning, and the teachers had to just decide their own way how to use the apps in their teaching. For week 1 and 2, the teachers introduced apps that allowed for speaking and writing. For weeks 3 and 4, the teachers selected apps that encouraged listening and print awareness. For the final weeks 5 and 6 and 7, additional apps that allowed students to write, speak, and listen were selected. Data were collected using twice weekly observations, digital work samples, interviews of teachers and parents, and informal surveys from the students' parents. The apps from the previous weeks weren't deleted over the course of the study, so the students were able to go back to them if they desired during their own time. Children were allowed to use the iPads for individual leisure time or small group work learning activities that the teacher assigned. They also were allowed to read digital storybooks, where a lot of one-to-one observation was used of the iPads. This displayed the connection to how early learners are beginning to become introduced to literature via digital text rather than printed.
There are 5 phases of reading development. They are emergent literacy, beginning reading, building fluency, reading for learning and pleasure, and mature reading. Emergent literacy is the period in a child's literacy development between from when they first notice print and when they can actually read words. Beginning reading is starting to learn how to read words, but also understanding what they are reading. There is an understanding that groups of letters make words that have meaning with patterns to make sentences. Building fluency is when the child is reading at a faster, more accurate pace. This stage is based a lot on independent reading, using books that are on a child's reading level. Reading for learning and pleasure, the child is now reading to learn new things while also enjoying it. Chapter books are brought into the child's reading selections, and reading and writing instruction is crucial, since this stage helps show teachers if there are problems in reading levels. The final stage is mature reading. A child can point out important characteristics of books, such as characters, theme, plot, etc. They can interpret the book in their own way, argue about components, and analyze deeper. They also use strategies as they read for information.
This study was conducted on preschoolers, which means they would be in the emergent literacy and beginning reading phases of reading development. Teachers mainly use programs on the iPad for one-to-one instruction through several apps that use digital literature rather than print. Since the children are in the early phases of reading development, using iPads will help them notice print and start figuring out what words are before they even begin schooling, where printed literature is introduced. Using apps such as those that practice the letters of the alphabet, matching letters to its sounds using pictures, or learning to pronounce words in digital storybooks. This study is changing what it means to be literate by incorporating technology and digital print in its definition. This means that children and even adults learn literature differently via technology, and that instruction needs to be changed in early phases to include such changes in today's generation. Children still need to be able to develop reading skills that will allow them to develop to mature readers through the use of iPads and tablets. They need to use meaning, visual, and structure, and they need to be able to self-correct, monitor their reading, comprehend, and others when reading digital print.
Here are some of the major points of the article. Due to children's increased use of technology, specifically iPads and tablets in schools, they're beginning to become introduced to literature more commonly via technology over books. As the author of our article explained, in the 21st century, it is possible that the roots of literacy may also include knowledge about digital forms of reading and writing. Children's awareness of print may, depending on child's exposure to text in digital environments, include knowledge about the use of the internet and other digital tools for reading and writing. The definition of literacy and what it means to be literate is changing as a result of technological advancements. The author also said, thus, to be fully literate in the 21st century, children must be proficient in the new literacies of 21st century technologies. Technology provides endless activities and programs to enhance children's overall learning and developmental growth using apps and games. The author also said, they recommend selecting technology applications that allow children opportunities to discover, make choices, and realize the impacts of those choices, as well as to explore, imagine, and problem solve. Programs should support the child's thoughts, emotions, and physical well-being. The infinite amount of apps available to children means that they can continue to progress and move through the phases of development by using technology devices such as iPads that were used in this study.
According to the article, the results of this study suggest that the iPad or other similar tablets can be used in multiple ways as an instructional tool to support the teaching of emergent literacy in an early childhood classroom. 6 themes that emerged from this study are functions of writing, using the keyboard to form writing, connecting reading, writing, listening, and speaking, emergent writing using digital technology, social learning, and digital environment print. The conceptions of literacy and instruction are changing to include the integration of technological advancements such as the iPad. According to the article, this case study indicates that children can develop emerging knowledge about print and digital context using an iPad or a similar tablet, and that it offers unique ways to employ reading, writing, listening, and speaking within one context.
An instructional activity we can form from this study is to teach children the emergent phase of literacy, what each letter is, through apps on the iPad. For an activity, a teacher can assign a student each their own iPad or work with them individually through one-to-one instruction. The teacher will select an app that first shows the children the alphabet by each letter being displayed on the screen, which matches a picture of a word that begins with the given letter and the iPad saying the letter aloud. For example, the app will instruct this letter is A. A stands for apple, and a picture of an apple will be on the screen. Once the child goes through the entire alphabet, however many times the teacher instructs, listening to each letter and matching it with a picture, they will then play an activity on the app that allows them to show if they have comprehended the information. This would include a matching activity, where the student can select each correct letter that matches the picture being displayed. For example, if the picture of the apple was to appear on the screen again, the student should be able to select the letter A correctly. If not, and they select another letter, such as B, the answer will be marked incorrect. Another activity would be for the child to select the correct letter that matches the correct letter sound that each letter makes. For example, when each letter is displayed and the app will instruct its sound. Once each child has gone through the alphabet, they should then be able to select the correct letter with the sound the iPad makes. The teacher can collect data from the activities on the app on how many each child gets wrong and right, and making note of which letters they're able to comprehend or not comprehend. This will allow the teacher to change and continue their instruction to help the children develop through each phase. Thus, the children will then be able to master the alphabet and be able to progress to the next phase of developmental learning.
In conclusion, preschool teachers have traditionally given children experiences, pathways to print with traditional print-based text and tools to prepare children for more formal reading and writing instruction in subsequent years of schooling. Overall, the mobility of the iPad can create socialization within the children. They can see screens of other children easily and can use the touchscreen in groups. Because of these possibilities, the iPad could be a good tool for early childhood educators.